Zoom for like a year, and it's
well, that's what everybody does. That's and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Like, listen, yo,
I'm like, no, if you want to talk to me, fine, but I don't want to have to look good on camera or worry about what's in the background for some psycho to figure out where I live.
Yes.
So. I'm thinking ahead. Sorry if it's inconvenient.
No. This is the way you're making us go back to the old school ways. So thank you so much.
That's right.
And
just like when you used to make records, like in a cave.
Yeah. So, Red River Podcast welcomes. This is like one of those times where I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, we have a stupid podcast from Long Island, and we're talking to Eerie Von,
amazing,
of Samhain and fucking Danzig. So thank you for doing it.
That's no big deal. Everybody's got a podcast. It's no big deal. Don't feel special. It's all right.
It's a flooded market for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't feel special. Everyone plays bass, but I mean, you did play.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I don't do it anymore. I leave it up to everyone else.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for doing this with us, man. We wanted to kind of really what it was is like one day I'm like listening to like Lucifuge, and I was like, I'm wondering what the like
you do.
Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck? Where is John and Eerie right now? And like every now and then, like everyone, when it comes to a podcast, it's like I don't know, people just have on like, the same people. And to me, I'm thinking like, I want to talk to like dudes that really meant something to me,
Sure.
I mean, like guys that like that like I have a Crimson Ghost tattoo on my arm, and I covered it up.
One too.
Oh, you got the Samhain one,
Yeah.
and I covered up. I had a Jailhouse Misfits tattoo that I got when I was in jail, and I put, and then like I just wanted to like reach out and just kind of like touch base with you, and thank you, like I said again, for doing it. So how are you, Eerie Von?
Oh yeah, fine. I don't know. I just woke up. So far I'm good. Okay. I have, it's nice out. It's been raining here for a week. I'm like, oh, look, sun, but that doesn't really matter. I probably won't even get out of the house today, but, fine. Doing what everybody else is doing, I think, but I'm in Kentucky, so it's not exactly the same as everywhere else, so, everybody here, I'm not sure what the rest of the world is doing, but everybody here's they're not all wearing masks and stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I go in and count people not wearing masks, and I come back and go, it's like, how was it outside? And I was just like, oh man, I went into a dollar store and there was 7 people in there and 6 of them didn't have masks on. I was like, I felt so superior.
Yeah.
I was like, so other than that, everything was okay. I said, no, it was really ugly out today. So and people were moving really slowly and talking slowly, which, really, it fills your whole day. Really does. If more people especially from people up north and in New Jersey and New York and stuff would realize if you just moved slower and talked slower, you wouldn't have to do so much.
I got it.
You've been down there a long time.
It's if you sit down and think about it, it's a real method. And if you do that, then half the day's gone anyway.
You've been down there a long time.
Oh, I've been in the South for quite a while. Yeah, I lived in Nashville for almost 10 years, and let's see, I was in Florida for like 4 years, maybe more. That's kind of a blur.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I lived in Indiana for like another 4 years, which is like South Light. It's like it's almost the South, but even though it's further away, but they think like that.
What does that do? Like obviously you're a songwriter. I'm a songwriter too. What does that do? Like when sometimes you need like inspiration. Like sometimes I don't have lyrics to sing. Like the more you move and like the different places that you go to, like does that help? Like you write lyrics, or like does it help?
Oh
you
yeah. Yeah, if you're creatively inclined in that way, you can't help but pick stuff up if that's the kind of songwriter you are. Like just moving in general, getting a new car or picking up a new guitar. Everybody says, "Oh, as soon as I got this guitar, I wrote a song." So all that shit happens. I've written some stuff that's great. I'm like, yeah, it was at Big Lots, and somebody said this in the line in front of me, and I was just like, oh, that's a good line for a song. So I go home and write it, stuff like that. But yeah, it's totally crazy. But if you write about your life, and well, not exactly about your life, but just stuff that happens, then yeah, it's great to move around and go different places, because it's either really good, all the songs will come out really like, yeah, this isn't so bad, whatever, or really miserable. Be like, oh, I hate it here, everybody sucks.
So and when you like move around, like the hardest thing, even like here, like on Long Island, somebody was like, I need a drummer. I've been looking for a drummer forever. I need a guitar player.
Oh yeah, that's always a problem.
Yeah, right. So when you move around, like it's just like, hey, do you want to start a band? Like I'm sure, but I mean, like the amount of touring and places that you've been to in your life, I'm sure you've accumulated like contacts and friends.
Oh yeah, you do, but you forget all of them. It's like I'm still friends with like a certain bunch of people from like the beginning of going on the road till the end, and all like people in between, the ones that could really help you with anything, like your career or whatever. No, don't know any of those people anymore, or I forgot their phone numbers. I'm like, oh, I got so-and-so's phone number from 1986. I wonder if it's still good.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, like it's funny that you mentioned like from like the touring with like Rosemary's Babies, or like whatever you were doing. I don't know if you did any touring on Kind of Country, but everything in the middle. Like, do you still have Rick Rubin's number?
Yeah, but it's not the right one.
Oh, okay. I'm sure he's had 18 by now.
yeah. No, I actually probably only ever had his assistant's number, because I never called him. Like, what the fuck am I calling him for? I would just, he would be either at the session or the phone would ring and somebody say, answer the phone. And I'd be like, hello, studio, who's this? And it's like, hey, it's Rick. And I'm like, he's like, what do we do? Where are we at? That's what he uses. Where are we at? I'm like, well, we just did basics on 2 songs. We're going to listen to them now. And that's it. Everything's going good. And he's like, okay, call me in an hour. And he'd hang up, then the phone would ring again, and it'd be like, same thing. And somebody would tell him what we were doing. And he'd be like, okay, I'm coming down. And then he'd come down. And the first thing he'd do is like, anybody hungry? Let's order lunch. I'm like, dude, we can order lunch. No, let's eat lunch now.
Yeah, that throws you off too. Like when you're recording, like I don't like to. Like I just like to get it done. Like I'm not looking to like hang out, especially in the studio. I mean, back then.
Well, if you're paying for it, that's the whole thing. Every great record was driven by the bottom line. Come on, we got to get this done.
Yeah.
You can't afford this, So it's been like that since they started recording, But it's nice. That's why you get these records, these guys. When you first start, you're actually paying for the session at the end of the session, right? So by the time you start selling any records, it's like, come in on Thursday. We'll see what happens. It's like, you go, how much was the budget? The budget on the first record was like, $1,000, $10,000, whatever it is. And it's like, oh, we're getting $250,000. I remember that once. And we're like,
holy
yeah.
shit.
Yeah, well, that was good. I mean, come on. But you you realize, oh, yeah, you're moving up in the world. But the studio costs like $1 billion. It's not like you're paying, $40 an hour like we used to do,
No,
it's like, okay, $40 we can save up, and that's like $300, or whatever, something, I don't know. And then we had to wait till like next Tuesday or like 2 weeks from now to come up with the money. If you got the money, the studio is like $1 million, and then you got a producer, you got to pay him $1 million. You got to pay a really
2-inch
good
reel.
engineer. Yeah, right, exactly. I forget how much tape was, but it wasn't cheap.
No, it wasn't cheap at all.
Yeah, we used to get used tape. Some studios would have like reels of tape, like they just recorded somebody, and for some reason they still have the tape. So they just said, yeah, we'll just record over it. And we're like, is that good? And they're like, yeah, it's better. The tape's already stretched out. It's like broken in.
Perfect.
And we used to go, oh, that's good. And we didn't fucking know anything.
Yeah.
What do you mean it's broken in? To me,
out.
yeah, exactly. To me, it sounds like some of the shit might be falling off the back, like it does after a while. So anyway,
the difference, like let's say Kind of Country, right? Like it sounded like you recorded that, like you wrote everything, you did everything yourself. So it's amazing, like the difference now, right? Like, and that was even like 12 years ago. Like, how did you record Kind of Country?
I just had I used to record all the demos and stuff, and I did a record on like it was I think it was a 4-track cassette tape player. And then I just bounced everything until I made it into like an 8-track or a 9-track or something. But I got this digital recorder thing, and it was basically the same thing because I couldn't figure out how to work it right. And you could go up to like, I don't know, 64 tracks or 90 tracks or a million
96,
tracks.
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. But I couldn't figure that out. So it wound up being like as many tracks as they gave me in the first place. And I would just even bounce stuff then. So I had like a 16-track maybe if I could figure it out, and I just recorded it digitally and I had to do everything myself because I was in the woods and there was nobody around, and I could only record drums at certain times of the day. I couldn't record them at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I did a lot of stuff, like a lot of guitar leads and shit at 3 o'clock in the morning, or even some of the songs, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to tune up. Oh shit! Now I can't. Now you can't tune up for any of the songs, or I mean any of the track, or whatever. But yeah, I was used to recording like a real person in a studio with people going, would you like some tea or something to drink, and then just do it all and sit home and be like, this sucks. This is boring. I hate this shit. It's more fun playing with people. And it's just like, yeah, but, there's nobody here. So I just had to do it that way. And that didn't cost me anything, So it was great.
Sam mentioned your Kind of Country album. And one thing that's interesting about your career overall is if we can get into your influence and stuff. Because,
sure.
I mean, obviously there's a heavy punk influence, but there's such Americana music, country, blues runs heavy in the Danzig albums. So what like music bug bit you early on? What got you into it that you wanted to play?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. It was pretty varied, but I grew up on like the 50s type stuff. My dad and my mom both graduated like 55 and 58, so they were listening to rock and roll and doo-wop and stuff like that. Plus we were on the East Coast, so there was a lot of that, and everybody was in a band. And then later on, whatever my dad played, on the radio, and like Motown was big. He liked some country stuff. I remember like the first country songs I heard were like Johnny Cash, Patsy Cline. And then, in the 70s, country got big in the 70s, had a resurgence. And he played a lot of that shit, and it was all on 8 tracks, like Charlie Rich and Kenny Rogers and a lot of crap I didn't like. But I know them all now. I can remember all the fucking words to all these songs I hated, and I'm like, oh, they're not that bad now. And I'm like, yeah, some of them still are. But there was then my dad liked disco. Like all of a sudden the Bee Gees were all over the place, and he loved Saturday Night Fever. Like, holy shit, I can't stand this. Good thing punk rock showed up because my sister was into punk rock, so we could counteract the disco that was going on at the same time. So,
what was like the first punk rock that you heard then? Because I mean, you were there.
Yeah, the first song I can remember really was probably something off. I think it was Teenage Lobotomy was the first punk rock song I heard. My sister, she's a couple years older than me. She was already going to clubs, and being influenced by friends and stuff. So she was picking up records. And she would listen to them, and then I had a room like down the hall, and I was playing like the Beatles and stuff like that. That she would come in and say, "Oh, you got to hear this, come listen to this." this is a band. I got this album, whatever. So that was really cool because, yeah, like I said, I also did my parents' record collection, which was a lot of compilations of like the hits from last year or whatever. So it's a lot of 60s, top 40, and then like all the Beatles shit, you know. So yeah, it was across the board. So all that stuff just seeps out, you know. Whenever you're writing songs, I was like, oh, holy shit, that sounds like that, you know, or it could be this or that, you know.
Especially the Ramones. The Ramones were very like to me. What I always loved. Listen, I love the heaviest of the heavy and the softest of the soft, but to me, melody was always a big deal. Like melody.
Oh yeah, totally.
Melody.
Got to be a good song. Got to be a good song.
Yeah, it's for sure.
And I know where you're going. The Ramones were all they were pretty close. They were all like Glenn's sort of era, maybe a little bit older, but they all grew up on like the garage stuff and all like pop songs from the 60s and stuff. You know, that was their high school years. So they loved those, you know, basically the Ramones are just like 50s songs that played a little faster and don't have any like flair. It's just like basics, you know.
Just the good parts.
It's you know, it's just like, well, this is because I totally understand. Like when we were doing the earlier shit, we couldn't play anybody else's song, so we just wrote our own song because you couldn't make a mistake. It was your own song, you know. Right. But if you had to sit down and figure out how to play this track off the radio or whatever, just so you could be in a band or just so you know, start playing. It's just like, oh, I can't figure out Jumpin' Jack Flash or whatever we were doing at the time. It's like, oh, everybody was playing Back in Black by AC/DC. I remember that in high school.
So,
you know?
So right. It like when that's why I remember always buying like guitar magazines and trying to like learn tablature. Like I'm 43 years old, so like that was definitely like I just caught the tail end of it. And I remember growing up and listening to Metallica and looking at Kirk Hammett and being like, I could never do that. I was 10 watching like the one video. But then as I got older, I picked up a Black Flag record and I heard Greg Ginn. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And Greg Ginn just like blew my mind because I'm like, it sounds like he's playing all the wrong notes, but like the dissonance just really made sense to me.
Yeah. See, I thought that too. I'm like, it sounds like this guy doesn't know what he's doing. You know, it's just like, I could do that too. You know, it's like, yeah, that was the great thing about, you know, punk rock garage stuff or whatever, you know, it was happening 10 years before punk rock, and then it happened again, you know, and it still happens. It's like people are like, I just want to be in a band. I want to like do stuff. I want to have fun with my friends. I want to go to shows and stuff. So you just do it.
That's right.
You know,
playing.
Yeah, of course. You can't look at Kirk and go, yeah, I could do that. Because I remember looking at him and going, yeah, he practices a lot. I bet he's never been laid, you know, shit like that. You know,
he does have a nice guitar though. He's got a lot of those famous monster guitars. But
he got that one. Didn't he just buy like some $1 million guitar? It used to belong to Peter Green.
Oh yeah, you're right. He did. You're absolutely right.
I heard about it. It was like mythical guitar. It used to belong to Peter Green and who else? Like some Roger Moore, or some of the guy who played James Bond, but he was into guitar. No, it's Gary Moore.
Oh yeah. Gary Moore sounds more like it.
Right.
But yeah, like
the guy who played James Bond. Yeah, that's him.
Listen, Roger Moore was my favorite James Bond though.
Oh man, you need help. Come on.
But it's like it's the age
Pierce
demo.
Brosnan guy.
Yeah.
He was the horrible Bond in the 70s. You know, no, Sean Connery's the only James Bond. Come on. The guy's been playing for the last few years. He reminds me a lot of Sean Connery. He's real good.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Oh, and they're saying, oh, he's not doing them anymore. This is his last one, and now they're gonna have I think it's time for a woman James Bond, they said. I'm like, oh, please, give me a break.
Leave James Bond alone.
Like, of course it is. Why don't we just let women do everything? You know what? We should really take a break. You know, the rest of us just you know, men should just like, I don't know, do nothing forever, you know, for like 100 years and say, okay, let's see how it goes. You know.
Let's see how it goes. We'll just take a break.
Yeah, you wanted this job. Now you got it. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be in the bathroom fixing a toilet.
Yeah.
If you need me.
No, I'm gonna be hanging outside barbecuing, or whatever.
Oh, that sounds pretty good too.
Yeah.
How is that Kentucky barbecue? That's what I want to know.
Oh man, it depends. A lot of places, like same with Nashville, the good barbecue is really like the guy at the gas station who just like sets up barbecue, like on the weekends, a little tent, or somebody who has like a food truck.
Yeah,
That's
always the way.
Yeah, or somebody that has a party. I remember in Nashville, around the corner, there was one big house, and somebody used to just pull up with a homemade barbecue thing at the back of their car, and there'd be like 50 people just from the neighborhood having barbecue, So yeah, it was pretty good. There was a couple of places I liked. There's some of the local stuff. I'm trying to remember exactly, because after a while, in the beginning, we were like, yeah, let's go out and get this place. But the longer you're there, the more the places that you like disappeared, So
what place in Jersey do you miss?
Oh, it's Lodi Pizza for sure. Hank's Frank's, which is right across the street, across the highway, and then Pizza Town, which is up to in the next town. It's like people like, oh well, it's just pizza. I'm like, no, each place is different.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
So you have your favorite pizza place. Then if you're not in that neighborhood, you have the next best pizza place that you could go over there. Well, we're here. Let's go there. Oh, that place is all right. I had at least 5 or 6 pizza places.
Yep.
Yeah. And I used to tell people too, when I was growing up in Jersey, there was a pizza place like every 2 blocks. No, I mean every not every 2 blocks, but every like 10 blocks or whatever. And they were like, well, how could that be? He was like, well, the people who live from here to here would only go from here to there to get pizza. They wouldn't go past this place. Why do I have to go past here? I like this place fine. So yeah, we had our favorite places, but as soon as
I live in West Babylon, and right now on my block there's let's see, 1, 2, there's probably like 4 blocks, and there's 3 pizzerias, and
awesome.
I only go to one.
Yeah, exactly, and I totally missed that. And also, there's places in New York I used to go to when we were doing Samhain and the Misfits stuff all that time, like Mamoon's Falafels on 8th Street. There was a place Glenn and I used to go get. We used to call it souvlaki, but they also call it shawarma. It's just pita bread stuff. It's just like lamb that hangs up.
Yep.
They got whatever the hell that's called.
Yeah.
I really miss that, because you can't get that really anywhere else. I mean, I've been everywhere, unless you're in like Greektown or somewhere. You can't really get that lamb, whatever the hell that is. That big liquid mush of meat that they whatever.
Circle, yeah.
I don't know what that actually is, because no animal looks like that. So I don't know, but I love it. I really miss that.
It's probably a few different animals pressed together in some.
Yeah, it's pressed. It's like
delicious.
it's a huge lamb McNugget is what it is, But and hot dogs. I mean, I have chili dogs at least once a week, but I make them because I know exactly what I want, because of all the places. My favorite was Hank's in Lodi on Route 46. So in New York, push cart, dirty water dogs, I missed that shit.
Yeah, I got no problem with the dirty water dog whatsoever. I'm all about it. But speaking of NYC, so okay, to me, the 2 greatest American punk bands of all time are the Misfits and the Ramones. To me, like that, like they are, like I don't have any other band tattoo other than a fucking Crimson Ghost, because when I heard somebody made me Walk Among Us, and it fucking blew my wig. And I think I heard you say that they were probably one of your favorite bands of all time too, right?
Yeah, well, of course, especially back then. It's just like, I love the Ramones because they were just New York to me, and you could go see them. And my sister had gone seeing them in CB's. I saw them, other places. But yeah, and the Misfits were like, especially when we were friends. Anybody who liked the Misfits were like all in. It's like, yeah, the Misfits is the greatest. It's like, wish they'd play more.
It's just like I often said as a 14-year-old me skateboarding, listening to Walk Among Us, I said one day, if this band were to reunite, they could sell out MSG, because I knew every year some 14-year-old picked up Walk Among Us or any other of the records, and I knew eventually it was just going to be to the point where Glenn couldn't ignore it, or they would have to get along, and I saw them at MSG with Rancid and the Damned, and it was probably the greatest show I've ever seen in my life. So it's just it's amazing, like for you to have seen them in those, like, you probably saw a Misfits show where there was only like 10 people.
You were their official photographer,
yeah,
right?
I did. That was more like 50 people, but But yeah, see, that didn't surprise me at all. But I was just like, Jesus, it only took 40 fucking years, and I could just see, like, I wasn't around, but I had talked to Jerry when they did some festival or something the first time,
Riot Fest,
and I called him like the next day or the next week or whatever, and I said, so how'd it go? I said, I seen some video of the show. You guys sounded good. I said, and then I told him, I said, you got that big screen behind you. You're not doing anything with it, because they only had like 6 pictures, and it just kept changing through the whole show. But that's all. I was like, dude, you're paying for that big screen. You should be using more stuff, whatever. And he's just like, yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah. It's
But yeah, I thought for sure, because I remember Glenn telling me back then, like after they had broken up, that Jerry said crazy stuff like that. He would say like, yeah, Glenn, call the Garden, tell them the Misfits want to play. And and he's like, dude, you can't just call the Garden and tell them the Misfits want to play. You have to rent out the Garden or get a promoter to rent out the Garden. And it's like, we can't fill that place. It's like 18,000 or whatever it is. And the Misfits were drawing like 50 people in New York. Like, yeah, tell them that we want to play the Garden. So I'm sure Jerry was just like, told you we're going to play the Garden. 40 years later, doesn't matter. 40 years later, told you we're going to play the Garden. Sold it out too. I was just like, yeah, everybody always thought that was going to happen anyway.
So you
didn't realize it was going to take forever.
So you started out playing drums with Rosemary's Baby, like Sam mentioned, and how did you end up playing with Glenn and getting involved with him, which eventually became Samhain? Because I know they asked you to be in the Misfits at one point, right? Or
yeah, I played drums. I didn't have drums, but I wanted to play drums eventually. So I took some lessons at like the boys' club. They had a fife and drum corps in Lodi. And my friend was a really good drummer, and he did that shit. But he only did it because I don't think he had a drum kit yet. So that's the only drum he could play on. There's big marchings there. And it was just a thing that, like, I kind of like let it lax. And then when I got back into high school, it's like, oh, yeah, you get into punk rock. It's like, oh, what can I play? It's like, well, always like to play drums. I should practice again. So I started practicing again. And Doyle said, like, you should learn Misfit songs because we always need a drummer. So that was my incentive. And I started writing songs and just basically practicing beats wherever I could, mostly on the mattress on my bed. I put big holes in it, And that was just it. Then I started my own band because the Misfits at the time, they didn't need a drummer. So I was like, I'll start my own band. And just bought a drum kit, like $150, $200 maybe, and I was already friends with Doyle since like 8th grade, and he was just like, oh, we need pictures. That's how I met Glenn, was when I was going to take pictures. But I knew Jerry from playing basketball. We played at the same court once in a while, and we were just friends. So it's just like, if you were a punk rock guy, in Lodi, and you played something, you'd most likely be in a band with somebody else, that you went to high school with. So it just was circumstances, really. I think everybody in the bands in the beginning were all, could get to rehearsal, either had a car or lived in the same town, and somebody else could pick you up, or you could walk there, So it just kind of happened. And Glenn and I got to be more friends, and we're talking and hanging out, going to movies, just doing what friends do, and started talking more about, being in a band. And then it just happened. He was just like, yeah, this is what I want. The band should be like this, and everybody should do this, and everybody should do that. And it was just like, that's what I want too, And he was like, yeah, I like all spooky stuff too. And, I was like, we should do a band. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's do a band or whatever. He was just like, I want to do this, and these guys are a pain in the ass, and they want to do this, and I don't want to do that and stuff. It's like, because it's basically somebody I was talking to Brian Baker, and he was doing a podcast, and he mentioned that time when him and Glenn and Lyle were going to try to do a band together. And he said, basically, if you wanted to do whatever Glenn wanted to do, everything would be fine, And I was just like, yeah, that's exactly it. It's like, as long as you do what Glenn wants, you're good. So, and I was just like, well, I didn't care. I wanted to do what Glenn wanted at that time. I was just like, yeah, I was totally the same shit. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be in a band with this guy.
You need that good driver, and when you're in a band, like he just had. I mean, I would imagine just like Glenn just had that vision, and goddamn, like from the Misfits to Samhain to Danzig, like did he just really progress?
Oh yeah, it's really crazy if you look at the whole thing. Like the Samhain had to happen. I don't think he could have went from Misfits and Danzig, that smoothly. He had to write all the songs, get that all out of his system. It was just a progression. That's, I always thought that was good. It was kind of like each band just evolved into the next one,
It is a logical progression, like when you look at their career there. And how was I was a huge Samhain fan. November's Coming Fire, one of my favorite albums of all time. What was
it's a great record.
Oh, it's so good. And the songwriting process for that, was it equally distributed with you guys, or how did it work behind the scenes?
No, forget it. Not back then. I barely knew. Like, I didn't even know where the notes were. I just played everything by sight.
Yeah.
And I've heard stuff. I'm like, oh Christ, I'm not even playing the right note there. But yeah, no. Glenn was already. He as a songwriter, what I recall, because over the years just talking about stuff or just seeing it happen, he would always just write songs, and I do the same thing after all these years. You just write what you write, and if it's right for the band you're in at the time, then you say, okay, well, I'll show this to the other guys. But if it's all of a sudden it's a country song or something, you go like, oh, what the hell was that? And then you just write it anyway, and then you put it on the shelf and say, well, I'll give that to somebody else, or I'm never going to use that. So I think the Misfit stuff, he was already writing, from what he told me, a couple of songs for a band. His next band, it didn't exist yet, but he already had it in his head. This isn't right for these guys, and this, this is what the Misfits do. This wasn't right. This will be for the next band, or for maybe some solo side project, So he still does that today. I'm sure that's how he got the songs with Johnny Cash and Roy Orbison and stuff. He already had those songs written, probably. Just like, oh yeah, I've got a Johnny Cash song.
Yeah, amazing.
So you just do that. So it's whatever project you're working on, because it's happened during Samhain too. It's like, oh, this song's not, it's too poppy, or this song is more of a Misfit song, or whatever. So just weed out the stuff that was right for the project. Because if you listen, the songs all have this cohesion, and the lyrics got so much better, I think, during the Samhain period.
Oh yeah.
They were just so much more interesting. And there's stuff like Unholy Passion is totally different from the other two records, I think. And that was the way Glenn was thinking, what he was listening to, or just what we were into at that period of time. To me, it didn't make any sense. Like, why put out an EP when we got to pay the same amount, like, for for the record, for the sleeves, everything. It just the recording cost would be a little bit less. Well, let's just do 4 more songs. We'll have a whole album. Then we could charge for a whole album. It just makes more sense to me. And but that period I think just had to come out and then move on to the next thing. So that's why the bands, all had their purpose.
It's amazing. Like once you go from like Samhain to Danzig, like it's the lane that was created. You guys didn't really sound like anything. No. Like you guys got lumped up with, I guess, metal, but it was just like
it was more than that.
Somebody described it, and I thought it was perfect because I know Glenn's a big Morrison fan, so it was like the Doors meets like the Misfits meets Black Sabbath
and heavy blues.
It's just that first record. It's like. Like when you start recording that, I think you started recording that in September of '87. Like these new songs that ended up on the first Danzig record, like what were you thinking? Like when the material was coming out, and you guys were playing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly. I used to record all the rehearsals. Somewhere I have like boxes of cassette tapes of us like working on the songs. I'm not sure where they are, but I know they exist. I'm trying to remember exactly. Some of the songs were already Samhain songs, like
Twist of King, right?
Possession. I'm trying to remember. We already were doing Trouble by Elvis, so that was a Samhain song or arrangement. So that was going to go along. We recorded that on every Danzig record, just never came out. So it was maybe about 5 or 6 songs that were probably already fleshed out, and then the rest of them came along as they normally do. Like Glenn would show up and he'd go, "Oh, I got this lyric and I got this riff," and he would say, "Oh, it sounds like this, sounds like that." John would go, "Oh, you mean like this?" He's like, "Yeah, but not that note there." He'd go like, "Well, how about this?" And he goes like, "Yeah, but I don't like, where you're playing it. Play it over here." Or he goes, "It doesn't sound, scary enough or spooky enough, or it doesn't sound." So John would show him 7 different ways to play this chord or this riff or whatever. And he'd go, "Yeah, that one." And then we go, "Okay." So it's like, that's how the song starts. Okay, let's do that. Then you do it like 8 times, then go, "Okay, now where does it go?" "Oh, well, we could do this, we could go here. Well, it needs another part, whatever." And that's how basically, the songs would happen. It wasn't already, if Glenn didn't go, "Okay, guys, this is the song," and pick up a guitar or whatever, or hum it, then it was just a process, like everybody else.
Did John and Chuck come first, or was the Rick Rubin introduction first?
Oh, no, Chuck and John were there before Rick, or right at the same time. But they were, I think they were all, like a big new change at the same time, like an influence on everything. But yeah, John was the first guy to show up, and then Chuck showed up, and then and Chuck and Rick were probably at the same time, because we weren't really doing anything with Rick except having conversations and going out to dinner and things like that, just talking about music and concepts of bands. Like Rubin was really into the 70s thing, like Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, like these iconic bands with iconic members. That was the whole thing. It wasn't just the one guy. It was a band with 4 strong personalities. That's what made those records, the Zeppelin records, Sabbath, those 4 guys at that particular time. And he liked that whole not having the name of the band on the cover, stuff like that. Having a gatefold, your first record, and it's a gatefold with a big picture of you looking pissed off. That takes a lot of balls, That's like, people weren't really doing that, and it was a 70s thing, and I got big-ass sideburns. Well, just look at some of those old records. We looked like some of those guys,
Yeah, it was great. Like I like the very, to me, like I feel like the band was called Danzig, but there was 4 members. Like, you knew John Christ, you knew fucking Eerie Von, you knew Chuck Biscuits, and obviously Glenn. So it felt like a full band, and to me, this was like, goddamn, this was the lineup, man. Like, this is the lineup we want. Like, if one day we get a reunion, like, this is the fucking...
Fans have been begging for a reunion. In that crew, was there ever any talk of that?
No.
Spoiler alert.
No. When I remember when Chuck left, and then he joined Social Distortion. Like, I went and saw him like a year later. I think he was only with them for like a year, and I don't know if I was talking to John or not, but I think there was talk like there was like we should just do the band and just get another singer, you know. We were just like, you know, I don't know if anybody was doing that at the time, but yeah, it was kind of kicked around, but it wasn't realistic. We were just like, nah, Glenn was the fucking the guy who was coming up with most of the stuff, and almost 90% of it, because we were like, I don't know about those 2 guys. I wasn't nearly a good songwriter yet. Glenn was already writing good songs. It's just like the same thing in Samhain. I was just like, this guy's a great singer, writes great songs, and I like his lyrics and stuff like that. I was just like, I think I'll just play the bass, you know. This guy's got that covered, you know. And I'm sure John had riffs and things. And Glenn even said, you guys, you know, want to write songs? Just bring them down. And we were like, yeah, you've said that before. You know, it's just like he wouldn't sing anybody else's songs. You can't write lyrics for Glenn.
No,
you know?
I can't imagine, right?
Yeah.
Maybe music.
You know, he likes plenty of old songs that he would like, you know, favorite songs, make them on tapes and stuff and listen to them or whatever. But he carefully chooses what songs he likes to listen to, or maybe to do a cover of, and he has to like the words and shit, and half the time he'll change them, you know. But when you're a singer and you have a real big personality, you know, we'll call it that, it's really hard to write for somebody else. You have to be really in sync with that person to be able to sing someone else's words and like want to and make them believable and stuff. So like Chuck writes songs too. He's like, he never said no. You know, John was just really, if it wasn't for John, Glenn's ideas never would have came out, you know, because like I said, a lot of the stuff was listening to that we had these little cassette recorders that had little micro cassettes, you know, carry those around. And when you hear a song on the radio, you go, oh man, write something like this, or, you know, or you got an idea and you got to hum it so you don't forget it. So we had these little cassette recorders. So he would be sitting there going, okay, it's here somewhere. You know, we can't fucking find it now. You know, fast forwarding, no, that's not it. Fuck, rewind it. Fuck, maybe it's on the other side. You know, so then it would just be like, this is what I remember or whatever. And we just basically go, you know, and you go, oh, like this. Yeah, you know. So,
yeah, it's so great.
And what was it like for you, too?
I thought it was really important in all bands. And the reason bands break up, besides, you know, money problems, is that too much, or he wants to sing, or the bass player wants to write songs, or wants to do this. You know, it's like, bro, you got to know your role in the band, or else the band's not going to work. You know, you got to have the right temperament. Each guy's got to be able to get along with each other, and you got to do what's good for the song. So it's like, yeah, this is what, if I'm going to just play this or not play that, that's fine, whatever the song wants, you know. So that's the way I looked at Samhain too. I told Glenn when we were doing Samhain, I'm like, well, why don't you just call it Glenn Danzig and something, you know? And he goes, no, I want it to be a band, you know. So that was it. And the whole thing was just like, yeah, 4 guys that are really strong, but know, you know, what to play, what not to play, and really know your place within the band. That makes a great band. So that's what we did. We weren't concerned about, I got to go, hey, I want to sing a song. It's like, come on. It's like, you got Glenn. Why don't you just play bass, dude?
When we were talking before about the garden and stuff, what was that like for you too? Because you were, you came from these humble punk rock roots, and now you're in an arena touring band. Like, how did you like that touring lifestyle and that schedule? Because you guys were playing with Slayer and Metallica and whatever.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I loved it. I always wanted to be a fucking rock star anyway. I mean, when I was like a little kid, I was listening to Elvis, and I was like, saw Elvis on TV, like that year, 1973, he had this worldwide telecast, and I was like, 8, 9 years old, and I was watching that, and I was just like, bought the records stuff. I was just like, I want to do this. This is cool. Everybody loves this guy. He's pretty cool. So I wanted to do that. So I didn't have a problem, and I always liked the showbiz part of it. The autographs and like the Beatles, the girls chasing you down the street. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Here's the best part, I think, and I have no idea. I'll tell you this: not having to move your cab to and from the stage.
Totally. That's the first thing I liked. I was like, fuck this shit. We had to drive and then set up the gear and then do the show and then talk to people and then break down and then drive again. Yeah, as soon as we got a bus, which took forever, we got on the bus. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for,
You put in your fucking dues though. Like it wasn't like you were, you grinded. I'm sure you were traveling around in the early 80s, looking for gas money.
Oh yeah, we played gigs just to get from one place to the next.
Yeah, and
we broke down in the middle of nowhere and got stuck for 2 days with no food, no money.
That's crazy.
Yeah, getting out of the van was the best thing ever. So I was just like, yeah, I'm home. I feel bad for I don't really feel bad for him. I'm like, fuck you guys. Guys are just like, it's like, yeah, it's our first record. They're already on a bus. They're staying in hotels. I'm like, fuck you. You don't know what you're doing.
The first time I ever heard a Misfits song, it was covered by Metallica. Like, right?
Yeah,
so like
funny.
I heard Last Caress and Green Hell.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was 9 when I heard it. So,
well, at least that got you to the right place.
Oh, it got me to the right place. So, were you like? It's kind of a trip that I know. Like Hetfield did backup vocals on this record. Were you there for any of those sessions or not?
No, I can't remember the circumstances. I was usually always around. I can't figure out why. Must have just happened, or I don't know. Either I asked them or I don't remember asking them, so I can't remember the story. I just knew it was one of those things. Like, yeah, Glenn was doing vocals. I didn't need to drive him, so I didn't go. And he was just like, yeah, James was in town. He called him or whatever, or somebody had called him. Because usually when those guys came down, they called me because Glenn probably didn't give him his phone number. So Ruben must have called him. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, Glenn would be just like, yeah, James came down and sang back up on some songs. I'm sure it wasn't more than like, yeah, it was all right. It's no big deal. He's like, yeah, he can't really sing, but whatever.
I love it.
He's like, he really wanted to do it. I'm pretty sure that's the way it went. James probably like, let me sing on something.
I believe it.
Yeah, it had to be because he was such a big, wide-eyed type. He was more like a big kid sometimes, So yeah, he's probably like, I want to sing on that one. Yeah.
Listen, he picked 2 good ones for sure. I just want to say, so for me, Danzig 2 Lucifuge is a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I really like that one.
It's a masterpiece that I could listen to from the time I heard it with the album cover. That almost reminded me of LL Cool J's album cover at the same time.
Yeah, he did that thing when he was holding the medallion.
Yes.
Yeah, see, but our original album cover idea wasn't that one. It was the one that like the Doors' first album. That was the real album
the faces.
cover.
Yeah. The heads basically.
Yeah, the other one was just for the CD. That was like supposed to be the CD cover. Was Glenn holding the cross? Yeah, I don't know if that was somebody's idea or if that was a joke. That sounds like back then we were really giving some of the rap guys who were around because they were all on the same label kind of grief and making jokes or whatever, like they were afraid of us because they thought we were Satan worshipers and stuff, so it could have been a joke like that. It's just like, or Glenn saw that and said, "Oh, we should do cover like that."
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna do the LL, but so Lucifuge, it's amazing. So like the first record is great, everyone loves it, but there's something to Lucifuge that I feel like just gelled. Like everyone, like for a long way back from hell, like what a fucking opening track that is,
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's just like the right power chords at the right time. You get a song like Killer Wolf, which is just fucking like it's. No one was doing this. Like it was like goth blues, really. Shout out to Black Rebel Motorcycle Club that do it now. But Her Black Wings, the song "Girl," deep cut, very underrated, and a song that my band covers, "Blood and Tears." Man, it's like Blood and Tears. Like what was going like? What was the vibe like recording this record, listening to these songs?
Yeah, I thought it was good because. Yeah, now it's like the band. We all moved to California. We're this is all we're doing. Nobody's got regular jobs or anything. It's like 100%. We're in LA. It was a really good time, and the band's like really starting to gel. Everybody knows what to do. Everybody's playing well with each other. We're starting to get more to where we're working the songs out, and Glenn's like showing up on Friday, stuff like that. It was that was held over from Jersey, where the band rehearsed 3 times a week, like for 3 hours a day, and Glenn would show up once in a while.
Yeah.
He would go, all right, same thing. You must have learned different movement. Okay, where are we at? I'd be like, yeah, well, the band's, we're learning. We're working the songs out. We're putting them together. We're doing this. It sounded really good. He goes, all right, call me on Friday. It's like, okay. And it's like, you want to come down and hear how they sound? It's like, okay. And he comes down. He's like, he's got to work out the lyrics. He had everything written down in these little pieces of paper that he carried in this little, wasn't a notebook. It was this little folder. And he didn't have a lot of words. I'm like, that's the song? I was like, well, I got to write another verse. I'm like, he had like two verses, and that was it. I was like, where's the rest of the song? And it was just a really good time. And I still had to write down all the arrangements on big pieces of paper because I was just like, I can't remember all the songs. Yeah. And so I would just write everything down on like during Lucifuge, we had the walls were covered in like drawing paper. So Chuck, in between songs, he could just go onto the wall and start doodling because that's what he does when he's not playing drums, So I just took big pieces of paper and wrote down the arrangements. A, G. That's how I did it,
What were some of your favorite songs to play live off that record?
Oh, I like the whole record except for "Girl."
I love the drum fills on "Girl."
Oh, yeah, that's all it is. It's the worst song we ever did. I can't stand it. I like "Mother" better than "Girl."
Yeah.
Christ. Yeah, we played "Girl" like once the whole time we were in the band. I was like, I can't stand this song. It's just nothing. It's just Glenn screaming, and we just I just hated it.
Yeah.
But I liked the whole album except for that. And playing like all those songs, 777, like that whole tour and that show was like, it was dramatic. The band was really good, and the stuff is the way we played it. It's like it wasn't all the way it's mixed or you do this. No, we played almost all the takes on all the records are like their whole takes, or their first takes or second takes, almost never had to cut drum tracks together. Remember doing it in a couple of spots to just fix stuff. but it wasn't like bands did at the time where they would just cut all the drum tracks and then just overdub everything onto that. Like the way Metallica makes records, that kind of shit. No, we all played live in the studio. Glenn was usually in the booth giving us a guide vocal or what he had. And that's how we got all the tracks. And we worked really fast because we knew the songs because we rehearsed all the time.
Yeah,
and they were constantly working on them to where like every day you went in or, whatever, you were getting your part like perfect. And Chuck was, figuring out where all these little fills and these little nuances were going. And by the time we got to roll tape, we just had to play, it was just like, and it was a performance. And then it was, that Lucifuge really sounds like the way we sounded. And if we just put some fucking reverb on the first record, it would have sounded more like Lucifuge, So that was the problem. The first record sounded like that first Cult record, and it's horrible. And if we had just put some fucking reverb on Glenn's vocals and maybe on the snare drum, it would have sounded better. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, and the touring too, like Soundgarden, COC. But then I was doing some digging, and do you remember opening for the Pixies in Germany?
No, we didn't open for them. We were just on the same bill as them.
Festival.
Festival.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It didn't matter. Yeah, the Pixies. I didn't like them.
I love the Pixies.
Our tour manager liked the Pixies, and I think he might have worked with them or was friends with some of them. I couldn't care less, I've actually got him, the tour manager, videotaping something, and he walks up and goes, "Just talk with the Pixies," or the singer from the Pixies goes, "He's kind of a dick." And then he goes, "Doesn't matter, we're going to blow him off stage anyway." And then we just did the show. And I think Baker was on that. I think he was I don't know if Bad Religion was playing or I don't know, but I remember seeing Baker at one of those festivals, and he was wearing a Danzig shirt.
Nice. Well, yeah, I just had to crowbar the Pixies in there because I love them. But very funny. And they broke up that same year, so that's probably why he was in a band.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Once again, thank you so much for doing this, man. This is a lot of fun to really just talk to someone whose music we've been fucking like. I mean, this is such a big deal to us.
It's a great October episode.
Yeah,
too.
well, as soon as if I wake up in the morning, that's when my brain's like had a little rest, so it's like easy to talk.
Yeah, you're doing great. Unlike that Pixie singer, what a dick.
I didn't know him. I know my old lady loves the Pixies. I'm like, yeah. She goes, "I can't believe you didn't listen to the Pixies." She's like, how can you not like the Pixies? I'm like, first of all, the name is the Pixies, okay? And I said, and I didn't know anybody who liked the Pixies. It's the same reason I didn't listen to The Cure, because I said I didn't know any people that were, that went, that persuasion that liked bands like The Cure. We played like the closest we got to that stuff was Bauhaus, and we liked more like The Birthday Party, people who were like writing psycho crazy shit. Bauhaus was just cool because it was really good and it was really spooky and the singer was good, and stuff like that. But the Pixies, come on, nobody, I was like, you don't understand. If you don't have a friend that's into this band or that band, you're never going to find out, because usually one of your friends says, "Hey, you should listen to this band. I just heard this band. They're great." Or, "I'm going to make you a tape of this band." So I was like, nobody's making me a fucking Pixies tape, okay?
What about the generation? Because, like, for me, like, we're MTV kids. So, like, and you guys were making videos at this time. So what was that whole planet like for you guys?
Oh, MTV was awful. It was the worst thing that could ever happen to music. It was just, we couldn't stand it. And there was no way we were getting on there. And all they played was like the same videos over and over again. It was Madonna, Michael Jackson, and Billy Idol. That's like all they played. The Cars were on constantly. I didn't like the Cars back then. And we didn't make videos till '88 because we were going to do Samhain videos, but it was like, no way they were going to put that stuff on.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It was like, because we were going to make like porn and like murder videos and just like all kinds of stuff. And
you did though with Thrall, like It's Coming Down.
I remember having the long play
Of Flanagan, the video?
No, the Danzig. It was like a half-hour, 40-minute home play VHS
yeah,
that had all the
rules.
videos where she rides and everything, where he's breaking the chicken apart. And I don't think MTV would play that.
No.
Yeah.
No, we sent them the video, the first video for Mother, with all just, and it wasn't even anything. I mean, it was pretty tame. It was just Glenn standing in a pentagram they didn't like, stuff like that. But whoever was, powers that be back then, they were like, yeah, no, we hate it. No, we're not playing this. And they said, oh, if you edit it, we might consider it. So we edited it like 6 times. They wound up playing a version where you can't see anything, or they used to block shit out. They would censor, they'd be like, yeah, then they'd censor it themselves. And so from the beginning, they didn't want to play any of our stuff. And then if we sent them videos for the next song or whatever, they just wouldn't even look at it. So it took till we did the live video in like 93 that they went, oh, and there was different guys at the network by then. They go like, oh, this is good. This is just them playing live. Oh, and this is a good song. Oh, let's play this. And but before that, forget it. They wouldn't even put us on like 120 minutes or Headbangers Ball. We were on like once a year, or whatever.
Yeah, every now and then you see like the How the Gods Kill video, and you're like, oh, that's cool. It's 2 a.m.
Yeah, I remember that one
yeah,
episode
exactly.
where Glenn was going to throw Ricky.
when they actually started playing us. And I didn't watch MTV, but every once in a while you'd be going around the dial, and all of a sudden, hey, there we are, and it's like, what time is it? It's like, oh, it's noon. Like, shit, we're on MTV in the daytime. And then it's just like, go, oh, let's see if we're on at 5:30. And then, we'd come on. And I'm like, see, this could have been happening all this time. They could have been playing our videos. People would have been buying the records.
I mean, I think Danzig 3 was huge. I mean, is Danzig 3 still your favorite?
Yeah, I go back and forth from that and Lucifuge. I don't think I got a copy that I can play, because I still like to play Lucifuge once in a while. But yeah, that was the band at the top of our game. Like that, we were the tightest, had the longest tour at that time and stuff. And we're just really, really good band. That's why I like that. And that whole record, the basics, took like 6 days. We recorded 14 songs in like 6 days, and that was great.
And different too. Like the song "Anything" was like just fucking, like really something different. Like when you hear it.
I remember like there was a big thing about like going to this one chord, and that song should have been a single. If we had just played it a little faster, it could have been like, it reminds me of one of those cult songs that was usually a hit for them, that kind of thing.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. If you just sped it up just a hair, it would have had a nice swing to it, and it would have been like a cult song, and we probably would have sold a bunch of records. But yeah, I remember going like, we don't go to that chord. Like it was too happy or something. It was like either an A major chord or something. I'm like, well, everything was a minor pretty much. So it was like, yeah, we don't do that chord because it just sounds too happy. But I think we wound up doing it anyway. But you can do those major chords. You just don't play them like everybody else plays them. You know what I mean? It's like you don't do an open A major chord or something like that. Whatever. So it doesn't go, like the Birds, So yeah, but that song was really good. Yeah, I like the whole record. I wasn't crazy about Godless because it was just a Glenn's big, like walking around and posing like, wrestling, look at me kind of song,
That's
and I
funny.
was just like,
I was gonna say Godless is a great opener.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was just like, look at me. It's all about the big ego stuff, and like we did a lot of wrestling shit anyway, and the way we looked and the way I used to come out and do some of the things that wrestlers used to do, like goading the crowd and doing shit, But yeah, I love the drum bit in the beginning. That was fucking awesome. I remember Chuck, he did like 3 takes of that and he nailed it. And I was just like, yeah, that's great. But then this whole middle part where we just kind of walk around the stage and pose and look at the lights and look at the people. Oh yeah, Glenn's just freaking out. So I was just like, yeah, that's a little much. But the rest of it, the rest of the album, is the songs are great, and everything sounds really good. It's just a really good record, and I wish we could have done a video for Brand New God, because I had this whole concept in mind.
That's a good. I love that album, and that song is so good.
Yeah, I just saw Glenn on this shot. The people have used it since, and I probably saw it somewhere, but it had to be Glenn on one of those shots that they get the helicopter and they're spinning around. He's standing in the middle of like the Grand Canyon on some little mountain thing, and it's spinning around. I'm like, that would have been great. He's like screaming up to the heavens, I was like, oh, that would have been good, but we never did a video for that. Plus, we probably couldn't afford that, I was like, that's like Metallica money. We can't
that's
do
November
that.
Rain money right there.
Yeah, something like that.
But at this point, like, you were talking about like live songs and stuff. Like, how were you guys picking the set list? Like, or was that just Glenn?
No, we since we did all the rehearsing and he wasn't there that often, we started. It was a thing. You would sit and say, well, how does this song go into the next song, or what do you think? It also depends on how it was tracked on the record. Like the way you pick the songs on the record, there's a reason. They're just not 12 songs or whatever. The songs go the way they go because, and so one song would lead into the next song, or what are you thinking at the end of this song that we want to blow your mind with this in the next track. So the set lists were a lot like that, and like what keys certain songs are in. Okay, we can't play 3 songs in a row. They're all in the same key. So we're going to have to move this one over here, tempos, the whole deal. This is all stuff that me, Chuck, and John would sit there and do. And then Glenn would come down and then we'd go like, here's the set. And he's going like, okay, we'll switch this one with this one. Because now he's thinking, all right, how do I sing these songs in a row like this? Okay, after this one, I'm going to need a break. So let's put Blood and Tears in there so we can take a little breather after like going after him 100 miles an hour or whatever, full force. Then we're going to, just like the Ramones, just take a break where I want to be your boyfriend or whatever. Just everybody take off the jackets, and then this is the part we let the audience take a breath. And then, okay, now that they're relaxed, they're focused, they're seeing us, okay, now let's go, and we'll hit them again. And then take another break in the second half, do another slow song, whatever. So that was all stuff that we worked out. And it was just like, oh, I can't sing this song every day, so this song's not going to be in the set every day. It's going to be on the alternate list right at the bottom. Just like, okay, we want to do an encore, or they want us to do an encore. We had 4 songs we could play. Want to do that? Let's just do Kill a Wolf. Let's just do Kill a Wolf, and then we'll play something else, and then we'll go home.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the peek behind the curtain. So
yeah.
I like we could just kind of talk about 4 real quick. This was the tour that I finally got to see Danzig on. I went to Roseland. R.I.P. man.
Oh yeah, good show. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Typo, Godflesh, I believe, and Danzig. And so, what was the vibe on this record? Because this was like the last one where like the classic lineup was at. And let me tell you one thing. I almost feel like I like 4 better than 3. Like, I think 4 is so underrated.
It is underrated.
Yeah, I know. I've been telling people this like since it came out. They didn't understand it.
It's true.
And if they listened to it like it was a Sam Hain record, like if it was the last Sam Hain record,
that's a good
and
point.
then sort of like the way they do with Star Wars, and be like, okay, no, you got to watch this one first, or these 3 come after these 3, or whatever. So if you put it in that context and you listen to it like that, and then just start playing the Danzig records after, it makes a lot more sense. Some of the songs could have been older stuff that was never developed. A lot of the songs were more like Sam Hain songs. That's the vibe that I got, and I think Glenn and I were the only ones that knew what the record was really supposed to be like. Because like Chuck would just be like, yeah, I'll just play whatever, or we'd say, give us this. By then, we could just yell out, give us this kind of beat. We need this beat, or we want something like this, which was pretty much all you'd have to do with Chuck anyway. Say, I need something like a John Bonham thing with a little Keith Boone thrown in here and, whatever. And, I like the songs. They were just more, I don't know, emotional. And like John didn't understand them. He thought they weren't finished. He's like, we need more rehearsal on this. These songs aren't fleshed out enough. They sound like demos. I'm like, no, this is the way the song is. There's no rules. You write the song. This is the way I want the song, whatever. This is it. This is the song. Just play. Just do your thing.
Yeah, an interesting. Like, Can't Speak was like an interesting choice too for a single. But I'm gonna say my favorite song is "Going Down to Die," "Until You Call on the Dark," "Bringer of Death," banger, "Son of the Morning Star," and "I Don't Mind the Pain." I think that those 5 songs represent.
There's good stuff, and there's a lot of different type of styles and things on there, and what was the one you were just saying?
Can't Speak?
Yeah, Going Down to Die is just a straight like Danzig song. That's what always reminded me of like something, that could fit in anywhere. I like Sun in the Morning Star. I really liked until Glenn put that refrain on there, and I was just like, he ruined it. Because I had heard it before. And that song I really liked. And I remember recording that one, and we used to do it for sound check now and again. And because it was very delicate. To me, it was kind of jazzy.
Yep.
And we had to play it that way. And I remember recording it so well because there was a lot of nuances, and we had to play it like it was a show. And if we needed it to be really quiet, we played fucking super quiet. Like we didn't ride the faders or anything and just play the song. No, it was a performance, and it was really, really good. And I was really happy with it. And I just didn't like, I could see Glenn, because Ruben was doing probably the vocal tracks on that, and I could see him saying, "Oh, we need something in here. Oh, sing Sun in the Morning Star in this part over and over again." And I was just like, when I heard that, I was just like, "Oh, this is terrible." Because it was so much better without it. And the way the guitars came in, this sort of reminded me of like a Led Zeppelin-y kind of track, with all these, the loud, soft stuff and little intricate little bits, and then big guitars that just fucking coming balls out, So yeah, it's a good record, and more people are telling me now after all these years how misunderstood it was, and how it's really it's a great record. I'm like, yeah, I know, I was there. I was like, you people just got on board like 25 years later.
It might have been the times, like I feel like
no, everybody didn't. All the people who bought the last record because Mother was on it or saw the video wanted more of that stuff, and that's not where the band was at. And we came out with a record that was different than the last one, which was different than the one before, so that's just the way it is. And you either get it or you don't, so, we just, all the people who bought it for Mother and watched that video, they didn't buy the record. They were like, this don't sound nothing like Mother, like, it's like, fuck this. And all our other fans, bought it, and that's why it sold like half as many copies.
I bought it for It's Coming Down. Sure. It's Coming Down was the shit.
Yeah, but that was on Thrall.
No, I know. I'm just saying on that one.
Yeah, with
I love that song. That's one of my favorite songs. That's just like Evil Thing, like on steroids, because it's the same kind of vibe. But I like both of those. But It's Come Down I always loved playing that, and. The video was ridiculous. I like the band. There's a band version where it's just us playing, and it's really cool. It's basically, if you put us in a room that size with a bunch of people, that's what you're gonna get. And because we still played some small places now and then just for fun, And that was great. All the other like crazy like sex club stuff and all that other shit, we weren't even there for that. we left.
You didn't see Bob stick a spike through his dick?
No, we were in this. It was like summer in fucking LA. We were in a fucking old warehouse, and we were there for like 10 hours. It was 1,000,000 degrees, and I was just like, that was, I just said, I went around to each guy in the band and I said, this is bullshit. I'm leaving. What are you doing? I said, this guy's got enough footage of us playing. We did the song like 10 times. This is bullshit. I'm going home. And I go to John's like, give me a ride. I'm like, yeah, or whatever. And John's like, yeah, fuck this shit. I don't give a fuck. I'll go home too. So I go to Glenn and I go, look, the band's tired. We've been here all day. It's fucking hot. I said, that guy's got enough footage of us. We're leaving. He goes, okay. So we just left and he stuck around and took pictures. And I think I took a couple pictures that day. I can't remember because I don't have the film. But yeah, I think I took shots of him doing some of the background shit that never got in. But I think he stuck around. But for the most part, we didn't know any of that shit was coming on. First time I saw it, I said, where's the chicks? I said, there's no broads in this video. There's nothing but like gay guys and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with this. I've been to clubs like this, but where's the chicks? I said, you're talking MTV Headbangers Ball, whatever. Our audience is all men. I was like, you got to put some tits in this video. It never happened.
How did this era of this golden era of the band, how did it come to a close for you? Was it just going in a different direction? Did you guys all leave, or what? How did this all come to a stop?
I don't know. We got after we recorded the fourth album. I mean, things were a little weird then anyway. Just different vibe. You can tell. That's why the record sounds different. It's like, it depends on how everybody's mood was and where everybody was personally, and like relationships, and where everybody was living. So that all reflects on what the record sounds like. And then we get the Metallica tour, and we're like, oh, great, whatever, So we get on that, and in the middle of that, or right towards the end, Chuck says he doesn't want to be in the band anymore. So we're like, oh, okay. So we finish the tour, and then it's like, oh, now what do we do? And that was pretty much it. Once Chuck left the band, I was just like, yeah, this is not going to work anymore, But John and I said, well, we'll stay till the end of the record cycle. When you're, in the band, you would commit. So it was like, well, if we got to make 4 videos and we have to be there and make the videos, we have to do TV. We do that. You got to do the tour. You got to do all the promotion, the photos, whatever that shit is. And then when that's done and you don't have any more commitments, then you can decide, well, I want to leave the band, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. So after Chuck left, John and I stayed till the end of the cycle. And once that was done, we both said, okay, well, we're leaving, So that was it. It was really no big deal. It was just like another record, another tour.
Yeah.
And just like, that's the way it worked out. That's, things end. That's just the way it goes.
And you guys, it's just like, you'll always have just everything that you've done. It's like, especially like when you look at Danzig, it's like those first 4 records, like that's like 4 bangers in a row. It's just something to look at and be proud of, I think.
Sure. Yeah, that was good. But I looked at all the Misfits stuff the same way. It's just like a progression, and then you got your big great album, and then your other album is pretty good, and then just what happened, all that, it was just a whole progression of stuff, and for Glenn, like a big body of work, and just, it's good. And by the time we got to Danzig, there was a really good period there, like, 8, 9 years, where, well, the whole thing, yeah. But where everything was just gelling. So, yeah, there you go. We put out some good records, and then that's it. Then we put out a whole bunch of crappy ones. So.
Well, listen, I'm looking forward to the Danzig 2023 Riot Fest reunion.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
With the classic
right.
Beat the Garden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think John's probably on a, sabbatical somewhere, like, where he's teaching, poor children in Somalia how to play guitar or something. I don't know. He's kind of on an Angelina Jolie trip or something.
Good.
But just call the Garden and tell them you're ready to play.
And no one knows where Chuck lives, and I couldn't tour. I can't hardly walk. So Glenn can just go do what he's doing and they could do like Beatlemania.
I'll call the Garden for you guys and get back to you. Yeah. I'll let you know.
Yeah. Tell him Glenn wants to play.
Yeah. So like wrapping up, are you working on anything new you want to talk about?
Yeah, I just have to mix a new record. It's just with COVID stuff, and I'm in Kentucky now. I recorded it in Nashville.
Awesome.
And, so it's just getting down there when everybody's around or available. Everybody's got other lives and jobs and things. So I've just been waiting. I haven't been down there in like a month or two. So I'm just waiting for the studio to be finished, too. They built a separate studio. And want to mix it and then put it out this coming year, and I got another book that's supposed to be coming out. So
yeah, Misery Obscura, like I'll put the links up to that too, like the picture on that.
Amazing photos.
Yeah, so Bazillion. I got, follow up to that thing, and that's it. And, might do a convention here and there, horror conventions and stuff.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I just want to get the record out because I've been wanting to do it for a while, and and it's really good, and it's better than the last one, and it's different than the last one, and all the songs are different. And it's great. It's got a bunch of cool people from Nashville playing all kinds of shit on it, So
you just mentioned
it's like a real record,
You just mentioned horror conventions, and we're about to do our Halloween episode too. Is there I imagine you're a big horror fan this time of year. Any go-to films? What's your 3 favorite horror films? I'd love to know.
Oh, favorites. Oh, my most favorite is Night of the Living Dead. Nice. That's just from, the old days.
He's wearing a Romero shirt right now.
I am.
Yeah, I love that. And that was one of the ones that really blew my mind. And it's not really horror film, but I like Angel Heart's one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
De Niro, Lisa Bonet, Mickey Rourke.
Sure.
I think Brian De Palma directed it. And I don't like The Shining. I don't go in for slasher films really. Glenn was always into gore fests. I was never a big fan of that. I like more suspense and spooky shit, and I like all the old monsters. I like all the Universal monster stuff. That's always been where what I grew up on and got me into everything was just the monsters, and I still love that shit. It's still my favorite. I'm still buying a Frankenstein shirt or a poster of Bride of Frankenstein or something because it's too cool and I gotta have it.
The classics never go out of style.
Yeah, it's just great shit.
Yeah, listen, when the record's done, send me the link. We'll put it all over anything just to put it out there.
I'll post it and stuff, and let people know. Who knows when that's going to be? It's just I'm just in Tennessee's really bad with COVID. It's like worse than it is here. So I don't know what people are doing. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much. Yeah. This is like a really big deal for us. We get to talk to a lot of cool random people which like that we grew up with or that we admire in some way, and the fact that you took 90 minutes out of your day to talk to us, thank you so much.
Well, I stay up late, so this is still like early morning. Yeah, no problem. I love telling the old stories. It was fun time. I enjoyed it,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Eric.
Open door. Anytime you have anything you want to talk, man, we're here.
Okay. Well, you guys have a good day. It's good talking to you.
Be good, man.
Later, man.